Hello friends, welcome to the class of spiritual intelligence. This topic comes under advanced educational psychology. Before discussing this topic, let me introduce myself. I am Sasmita Kar, working as assistant professor of education in the School of Pedagogical Sciences in the prestigious Women University of Odisha, that is Ramadevi Women's University, Bhubaneswar. So after the completion of this course, you will be able to explain the concept of spiritual intelligence, the concept of spiritual intelligence as well as its nature will also be familiar with you. Then the principles of spiritual intelligence can be applied, can be integrated in your day-to-day life. So friends, when we start about the topic, when we think about the concept of spiritual intelligence, let us see, is there a concept which can be called spiritual intelligence? Is it a valid concept? Yes. We have heard about the multiple intelligence theory of Howard Gardner. Accordingly, there are multiple intelligences possessed by an individual. From this concept, we can say that the concept of spiritual intelligence has developed because though Howard Gardner has not given the concept of spiritual intelligence, but we can think that he has given 8 types of intelligences. So we can add one more type of intelligence which is possessed by individuals or which can be developed, which can be inculcated in the individuals or which can be cultivated too. Howard Gardner has given the concept of 8 types of intelligences. One of such type of intelligence is linguistic intelligence. This is the ability of an individual to think, to read, to write, as well as to communicate verbally. Another type of intelligence is visual spatial intelligence. This is the ability of a person to think in pictures, to think in images, to imagine the things in your mind. Then musical intelligence. This is the ability to sing, to compose music, to understand and appreciate music. Then comes the logical mathematical intelligence. This type of ability is possessed by an individual who is able to calculate properly, to think in a logical way, to have the capacity of reasoning, to think systematic in a systematic manner. Then the next type of intelligence is bodily kinesthetic intelligence. This is the ability of a person to use the body in a skillful way to solve various problems by using hands or by psychomotor movements, to create various productions. Then comes the interpersonal intelligence. This is the ability to work effectively with others. This is the ability to have good interpersonal relationship with the people around you or with the society. Then comes the intrapersonal intelligence. This is the ability for self-analysis or self-reflection. One should be able to understand his or her strengths and weaknesses. One can do shock analysis, one can realize himself by such type of intelligence. Then the last type of intelligence is naturalist intelligence. This is the ability to understand and classify the elements of the natural world, to love the beauty of nature, to appreciate the beauty of nature, to distinct among birds, animals, as well as the other organisms of nature. Now, earlier we have uh, heard about the concept of IQ or intelligence quotient. This is a concept which was largely popularized by Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon. The first modern intelligence test was done by these people. Accordingly, this IQ is the ability to act purposefully, to think rationally, and to deal effectively in a situation. Then comes the concept of emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, which is widely popularized by Daniel Goleman. This is the ability to manage one's own feelings, one's emotions. This is the ability through which one can manage one's own emotions as well as to manage the emotion of other people by understanding it, by analyzing it in a proper manner. And after emotional intelligence and um, general intelligence, now the latest concept is about the spiritual intelligence. Sometimes there is a question in our mind, ki, is this a real concept? Can we use this term, the spiritual intelligence? Yes, this is a term which is first given by Donna Johar in the year 1997. Besides, Ken O'Donnell also introduced the term spiritual intelligence in 1997, then Emmons in 1999. So these are the people who have popularized the concept of spiritual intelligence. And when an individual possesses this type of intelligence, it helps him to understand the true nature of reality. So what is exactly spiritual intelligence? People have defined spiritual intelligence in various ways. However, we can say that an individual who possesses this type of intelligence can ask questions about ultimate reality. For example, the person will ask questions about the ultimate meaning of life. Questions like, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? What is life? What is death? Is there any life after death? What happens to life before birth? What is moksha? What is liberation or salvation? All these questions of reality can be asked by an individual to himself. And this is the type intelligence which helps an individual to understand the relationship between the individual soul and the supreme soul or the universal soul. This is the intelligence which helps a person to integrate the relationship between ourselves and the whole world in which we live in. Besides this, it increases the psychological well-being of an individual and helps him to live a purposeful life, to live a meaningful life. Just a few definitions of spiritual intelligence. According to Robert Emmons, this is the adaptive use of spiritual information to facilitate everyday problem solving and goal attainment. That means a person with spiritual intelligence can solve the problems of day-to-day life in an easy manner by using spiritual information. This is also the intelligence which helps a person to achieve the goal of his life or to attain the goal of his life and to become successful in life. Then this type of intelligence is necessary for maintaining compatibility with the environment. A person can cope up with the environment in an easy manner by possessing such type of intelligence. People with higher spiritual intelligence are more tolerant in dealing with the tensions, dealing with the depressions and anxieties of life. They also show high level of intelligence or higher ability to adjust to the environment or to solve the day-to-day problems of life. According to Johar, there are 12 principles of spiritual intelligence. I have already said that Donna Johar is one of the protagonists of spiritual intelligence. So let us briefly discuss about the principles of spiritual intelligence. According to Johar, the first such principle is self-awareness, that is knowing what I believe in or what I value in my life. What are the things that deeply motivates me? The next principle is spontaneity, that is living in and being responsive to the moment, being responsive to the situation or to the environment. Next principle is being vision. This is acting from principles and deep beliefs and living the life accordingly. Next important principle is holism, that is looking at the things as a whole, understanding the things by looking at the larger patterns, by looking at the relationship and establishing associations or connections among different things. Now the fifth principle given by Donna Johar is compassion, that is having the quality of feeling with or having the feeling of empathy, understanding or realizing the pains and sufferings of others and taking it as one's own. Next is celebration of diversity, that is valuing and appreciating the differences of other people, the differences of other religion as well as culture. Then next one is field independence, that is standing against the crowd and having one's own conviction. This refers that one must have the courage to give his own opinion, to put his own views, even if the whole crowd is against his own view, even if the large mass is against the general principle, against the law or against reality. Next one is humility, having the sense of one's true world, being humble, realizing one's own nature as well as realizing the nature of the universe. Then the next thing is tendency to ask fundamental why questions. One must understand the true nature of the things. One should have the courage to ask the questions such as the why and how type of questions. Then the ability to reframe, standing back from a situation or problem and seeing the bigger picture, understanding the picture, understanding the problem in a wider concept or understanding the concept as a whole. The next principle is positive use of adversity. When an adverse situation comes, one must learn from the experience and one must grow from the mistakes. Then the last one is sense of vocation, that is a feeling which motivates an individual to give back or to serve the mankind, to work for others. So these are the 12 principles given by Donna Johar, which are taken as the important principles of spiritual intelligence. Now, what is the importance of spiritual intelligence in our life? We can say that till now we are having the concepts of general intelligence as well as emotional intelligence. But what is the importance of spiritual intelligence? Yes, all of us have possessed spiritual intelligence to a certain extent. And when we have higher spiritual intelligence, we can be adaptive uh, to the use of spiritual information in our day-to-day life. It can improve the overall quality of our life. It enhances the psychological well-being. It brings personality integration, or it helps an individual to become free from the inner conflict. However, one should not confuse this term spiritual intelligence with spirituality. Spirituality and spiritual intelligence are two different terms. Spirituality is to know who you are, whereas spiritual intelligence help us to realize who am I. That means spiritual intelligence develops self-awareness or self-realization. In this way, spirituality is distinct from spiritual intelligence. Now friends, spiritual intelligence is not only important in our life, it is quite important in the process of education or in the teaching learning process. This is a type of intelligence which helps in whole brain training. First of all, we can have intellectual intelligence. This is the processing of our left brain, or this is a function which is associated with the left side of human brain. Then we can speak about emotional intelligence or EQ. This is actually the function of our right brain because our feelings and emotions are associated with the right part of our brain. However, emotional intelligence and general intelligence are not enough to make an individual self-sufficient or to make an individual self-actualized. Along with IQ and EQ, we can have SQ or spiritual intelligence along with the training of 3 Qs, that is intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence. We can develop the 3 principal dimensions of intelligence in our life, and when all the 3 dimensions are activated, we can say that this is the synchronous processing of the whole brain of human being, or in other words we can say that this is the whole brain teaching or whole brain training. Along with these 3 Qs, we can unlock the full human potential. We can help an individual to become self-actualized, and it helps an individual to become highly um, successful in one's individual life, in one's personal life, as well as in the workplace. This spiritual intelligence is taken as the highest dimension of intelligence. When we speak about our intellectual intelligence or IQ, this can be governed by our thought, whereas our emotional intelligence or EQ is governed by our emotions. But the last one, spiritual intelligence, is governed by our spirit. So, rational intelligence or intellectual intelligence, that means IQ, is associated with what I think, whereas emotional intelligence or EQ is associated with what I feel. But we can say that spiritual intelligence is the highest level of intelligence or highest dimension of intelligence because it makes an individual to think who I am or what I am. So spiritual intelligence helps us to transform our thoughts and emotions to give us to live in a meaningful manner, or it provides a new meaning, a new purpose to life. Next come to the components of spiritual quotient. According to Emmons, there are 5 components of spiritual intelligence. In his paper Is Spirituality and Intelligence, and in the book Motivation, Cognition and the Psychology of Ultimate Concern, Robert Emmons has described about these components in detail. So let us see what are the 5 components given by Emmons. The first one is the capacity for a transcendence, that is, experience beyond the normal world, experience beyond the physical world or the world that we are living in. A person having spiritual intelligence is likely to think about this physical world. Is there any world beyond this physical world? Uh, then the next component is the ability to enter into heightened spirituality of consciousness. So a level of consciousness has to be reached by an individual with high spiritual intelligence. The next component is the ability to invest everyday activities, events, and relationships with a sense of sacredness, with a feeling of truth, non-violence. A person will lead to live life. So all the events of life, all the activities of life, all type of relationships with others can be managed in a holy manner, in a sacred manner. Then the next thing is the ability to utilize spiritual resources to solve problems in living. We face various problems in our day-to-day life, various challenges in our day-to-day life. With spiritual intelligence or with spiritual resources, we can solve these problems easily. And the last one is the capacity to engage in virtuous behavior. Virtuous behaviors can include the attitude of forgiveness, the expression of gratitude to others, the feeling of displaying compassion to others. All other moral values or ethical behaviors can also come under this virtuous behavior. With spiritual intelligence, one can inspire to do good deeds or noble deeds and avoid the bad deeds which is harmful to others or to the society. Then another protagonist of spiritual intelligence, Marshall and Johar, they have also given few components of spiritual intelligence. Accordingly, spiritual intelligence has the component of high degree of self-awareness. A person with spiritual intelligence is aware of himself, the strength as well as weaknesses possessed by an individual can be realized with spiritual intelligence. The next thing is having the capacity of flexibility. A person is flexible. A person with high spiritual intelligence is not supposed to be very much rigid in his life, so that one can adjust with the environment, one can be adaptive to the situation. One such component is having the capacity of dealing with pains and its development. There are various pains and sufferings in one's life. We can face various problems. There are various troubles in our life. But a person with spiritual intelligence can face these pains and sufferings, can have the power of tolerance to solve these problems, to tolerate these problems. Here we can think about the sayings of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in which there is a word called Sthita Prajna. Sri Krishna has called Arjun that a person who has high level of spirituality, or here we can say that spiritual intelligence, can be a person of Sthita Prajna who is not disturbed by sorrows and sufferings, neither by happiness nor by any sorts of pain. One remains stable in all types of situation. Then the next type of component is the tendency to ask questions, the tendency to ask why and how of the situation, and the tendency to know the answers. So without understanding anything, a person with spiritual intelligence is not supposed to accept the things. So without any reason, one should not accept the things, just like Gautam Buddha has said, don't follow me because I am saying this. Just try to understand me. Ask questions why I am saying this. Similarly, in today's education, the concept of Socratic questioning is widely getting popularized. Uh, the Greek philosopher Socrates also asked his disciples to ask questions, that is Socratic questioning, or questions starting with why and how. So critical questions or higher order questions is supposed to be asked by a person with high spiritual intelligence. The tendency to seek the links between different things, to establish relationships, to understand the connections among different things, or very simply we can say that one should develop a holistic attitude to understand the things, to understand the things as a whole, not to distinguish the things, or not to have the things with watertight compartments. Another component, another element of spiritual intelligence is unwillingness to injure, not to injure others, not to harm one's own self, as well as not to harm other people. Next such component is getting away from the context that is different from the unconventional activity. So a person with spiritual intelligence have respect towards the customs and traditions, towards the culture of one's own society. Uh, he is not against the traditions or the cultural practices of one's own. After discussing these things, we can come to the measurement of spiritual intelligence. How to measure spiritual intelligence? Friends, we have seen there are various standardized tools to measure the intellectual intelligence, to measure emotional intelligence, and nowadays we are also having many standardized tools to measure spiritual intelligence of an individual. Out of those tools, we can speak about SIS-RS, or King's Spiritual Intelligence Self-Report Scale, Amram's Integrated Spiritual Intelligence Scale, Wigglesworth's Spiritual Quotient Model and Assessment Instrument, and Judy Neal's Spiritual Intelligence at Work and Self-Assessment. These are just the few names of standardized tools to measure the spiritual quotient of a person. Besides this, we can also measure the spiritual intelligence by developing our own questionnaire, or by observing the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day behavior of an individual. A person with SQ is very much refined in his day-to-day life. His behavior is always guided by the ethical code of conduct. So till now we have discussed about the concept of spiritual intelligence, the principles of spiritual intelligence, various components of spiritual intelligence. Now, is there any way to develop spiritual quotient? Is there something through which we can develop our spiritual intelligence? Yes, very simple. The ways are very simple. For example, we can practice stillness in our life to become undisturbed in different types of situations. Situations will come and go. They will never exist permanently, because nothing is permanent in this world. Only change is permanent. Spiritual intelligence can be developed by developing self-awareness, by understanding the purpose of one's own life, by asking philosophical questions like who am I? Asking these questions to one's own self. Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? Why I have taken birth here? So, developing self-awareness can also improve spiritual quotient. Living a life of a purpose and intention. Understanding the purpose of life, living a meaningful life, trying to do something purposefully which can help others to live a meaningful life, can also improve SQ. Understanding that everything is connected, or understanding the wholeness of things, realizing that All the things are connected to each other. There is a connection between the universal soul and the individual soul. There is a connection between the life I live and the whole world. So understanding the connectiveness of all the things, understanding the wholeness of the things, one can also develop spiritual intelligence. One should be very much open. Openness in one's mind, openness in one's heart, openness in your senses. By being open to the situation, by being open to everything, we can also develop spiritual intelligence. There should be nothing in life which can be hidden from others. Our life should be an open page, just like Mahatma Gandhi used to say that my life is my message. My life is like the open page of a book which can be read by everyone, which can be read by everybody. So, spiritually intelligent persons should be open, or we can make our life like the open page of a book which can be studied, which can be known to others which easily, which can be accessible to others easily. We should not hide anything from others, and that can be possible only by living a life of truth and reality. Allocating time for thinking and reviewing our own behavior. At the end of the day, we can spare a few minutes to review our own behavior for the whole day. What I have done today. Is there anything I have done today which is helpful to other people? Is there anything which I have done today which can make others to suffer? So try to review your behavior at the end of the day. If there is a misdeed, try to avoid it in the next day. If I have done some good things, if I have done something good for others, then try to repeat it in the next day too. Efforts to self-discovery, know yourself, or self-realization. Understand yourself, understand your behavior, understand your activity, understand your body, mind, as well as soul. Then using your intuition, that is called as the sixth sense. Besides the five sense organs, uh, spiritual intelligence says that we are having the capacity of intuition. Uh, Using intuition is taken as understanding or grasping the um, words, instructions given by our mind. Mind is taken as the sixth sense organ. So one having high spiritual intelligence will be able to understand, will be able to obey the instructions given by our intuition, or the intuition power will be high. Being sensitive to social issues, one should do selfless work towards the causes of the society. One should develop the attitude of serving the mankind to work for the social cause. Then sensitivity to goals in life, to achieve the goal of life, to have one's own goal of life, as well as to work to attain the goals of life, is another quality for developing spiritual intelligence. Concerns about injustice and inequality in the society. If there is any harm to any people in the society, if there is any injustice or treatment of inequality in the society, then one should also work to remove these things. Love for values and compassion. The values, morality, and ethics should be valued. One who is interested to develop his spiritual quotient, then one should be compassionate towards the pains and sufferings of others in order to develop spiritual intelligence. Love of nature, love for the fruits, flowers, birds, animals, love for the flora and fauna, understanding the nature as well as appreciating the beauties of nature, appreciating the birds and mountains. All these things can also develop our SQ using visualization, meditation, and mental activities. So, doing meditation or meditating, contemplating to understand the meaning of life, these things can also develop our spiritual quotient. Now, friends, we can conclude by saying that इंटेलिजेंट वो नहीं होते जो स्कूल में टॉप करते हैं. द स्टूडेंट्स may not be taken as intelligent who get the top position in the school, but intelligent are those people who top in their life. Intelligent वो होते हैं जो लाइफ में टॉप करते हैं और who is able to solve the problems of his life in a meaningful manner, who is able to live the life in a meaningful way, can be taken as intelligent. So along with this, I would like to conclude this session, hoping that you will try to develop spiritual intelligence in your life by practicing the few things which I discussed today. So thank you, students. Thank you for attending this session or on spiritual intelligence.